Hello everyone, welcome back to Spurs from the Stands. In this video we're going to be talking about the match preview tomorrow, Tottenham Hotspur versus Aston Villa in the third round of the FA Cup. And we're going to be talking about lineups, predictions, formation, and just a general preview of what's going to happen tomorrow. Thank you so much to those of you so far who have been commenting on my videos, liking, subscribing. As I said before, the hardest thing about starting a YouTube channel is not just doing the first couple of videos, but the consistency that comes along with that. So it's very much appreciated. And the more of you that subscribe, it means that very soon I can start doing some lives and get the community more involved, because I know everyone wants to talk a little bit more about Tottenham Hotspur. So, tomorrow, 5:45 kickoff, Tottenham Hotspur are playing Aston Villa in the Cup, and this feels like a really interesting test for where Spurs actually are right now. Obviously, we know that people are still saying that we're a mid-table team. Realistically, we're kind of probably more like a lower bottom half table team. So this game for me personally is not just about the results, it's about the team selection, which is going to be quite revealing, and we're going to talk about injuries a little bit more, the mentality of the squad and where we're at the moment, and whether this team can handle a disciplined, well-coached side like Aston Villa in a game which is not Premier League but a cup fixture where it really matters. So yeah, let's dive into formations, key players, how both sides might approach this game, and then I can give you a more realistic score prediction. And actually, I never really do score predictions, so this is going to be an entirely new thing for me. I hate being wrong. Hate being wrong. So yeah, anything can happen. But the context of this game and why this especially matters is because Aston Villa at the moment, they are well organised, they are strong physically, and they're very comfortable dominating a game without necessarily having possession. They have been undefeated. Well, they lost one game against Arsenal. So actually, they have been undefeated in 13 of their last 14 games. They drew the other day against Crystal Palace. And before that, obviously, they lost against Arsenal. But other than that, they've won all of their games in all competitions. And by contrast, obviously, we know that Spurs have picked up very few points from, I think it's, 11 points from a possible 36. So we are not on the best form. And Aston Villa really capitalise on mistakes that teams make. And we know that Spurs have been really bad recently at conceding from mistakes. And even Thomas Frank said in one of the press conferences that there were over 25 mistakes a few games ago, and we need to cut this out of our game. So for Tottenham, this is really about control and controlling the game, not necessarily being dominant in possession, but actually like having more control in the middle of the field, I feel, versus this emotional roller coaster that seems to be actually affecting and impacting the game that comes from the stands. I think this is very much going to be a case of being disciplined at the back versus taking those riskier moves forward. And, you know, one of the things that Frank has been criticised about is that we can't defend and attack in equal measure. It kind of seems to be one or the other. And whenever we get a foothold in the game and we get in front of the game, we often end up conceding off the back of that due to players switching off, you know, just passive play, disengaging from the game. And for whatever reason, we need to be able to manage these big moments better instead of reacting to them. And I think this applies not just to the players, but also the fans as well. So I think in particular, this game is going to be a real test. I know some people still think that we're in for a cup run. Whether that's true or not, time will tell. But I expect Tottenham to stick broadly with a 4-2-3-1 formation. There might be a little bit of rotation in this just because of the injuries. So at the moment, obviously, we have the injuries that we already know about: Solanke, Kulusevski, Maddison, who are out. But on top of that, we also have Kudus, we have Bentancur, and we have Bergvall. So it's looking like the squad is quite thin on numbers. I even just saw a tweet about Matthias Tell being on the market at the moment as well. So this is quite like an unsettling time, I think, both internally from the players that are fit, but also the players that are not fit. I think the likely shape in possession is going to be the standard usual back four. I'm not sure if he is going to go with Vicario in goal, I've seen a lot of people saying that he's going to go with Vicario in goal. I'm not convinced. I think he might go for Kinski. He played Kinski in the game against Newcastle. I don't know, I've just got this feeling that he might just switch it up. And we do have to remember, this is a cup game, and at the end of the day, no one's really expecting us to win anyway, so what difference if we do get beaten? I think it's a good opportunity to give Kinski a run out, because in reality, this is probably the last opportunity he's going to get this season to have a competitive game. So I'm leaning towards maybe he's going to choose Kinski for this fixture, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. I think the back four is going to be the same, largely because we don't have a huge depth of squad, as I covered in the first video. So I reckon it's going to be Pedro Porro, Romero, Mickey van der Ven, and I have a feeling he might also play Ben Davies for this game. I think he played him a couple of games ago, and he did have a really good game. I mean, he scored, in that game. Who was it? It was against Sunderland, wasn't it? Yeah, so he played against Sunderland. And I'm just thinking out loud as I'm talking. I said that he was going to play Romero and Van der Ven, and I'm actually just wondering whether this is an opportunity to put Danso in the mix. And I'm just thinking, is there a chance that he rests either Mickey van der Ven or Romero in favour of Danso, and potentially even Draguskin? This could be a game where maybe he doesn't change both of them, but I'm wondering whether he's going to give Draguskin a run out. Potentially he could go to a back three, maybe sort of a back three, back five. That's also a possibility. Yeah, maybe he won't play Van der Ven and Romero today. Maybe there's a chance where Danso or Draguskin does come in. Potentially it's Draguskin, actually. If Draguskin's on the market at the moment, sometimes it's a way of kind of putting the car in the showroom, right? Sometimes it's a way of getting a player out there to get noticed a little bit more. So potentially you could put Draguskin out. And I'm just thinking who that would be for. Romero was obviously suspended for a couple of games, so it could be Mickey van der Ven. Potentially, it could be. I think middle of the park, it kind of picks itself because we have Paulinho fit, Bentancur is obviously out, Bergvall is out, which means Gray is going to come in, and obviously Xavi is our only creative midfielder that we have fit at the moment. I have a feeling Tell played a really good game last game. I think he's going to start after he scored against Bournemouth. And I think on the right-hand side, he's going to play Odegaard. And for this game, I think, even though it's a cup game, I think you've got to drop Moani. He just did absolutely nothing last game. He offered nothing, he showed nothing, he chased nothing down. Maybe you could say he created one opportunity which came to nothing, but really he didn't contribute much to the team. So I do think that it would be foolish not to put Richarlison into this lineup, even though people are saying that Richie isn't good enough. He's our most on-form striker, so you've got to use him. So I think that is roughly who's going to play. Yeah, the more I think about it, I think there will be some changes to the back line. I'm also thinking that Porro needs a rest, but who can you play on that right back other than if you move Ben Davies to the left back and put Spence at the right back potentially, and then you have a combination of either Dragusin or Danso with a Mickey van der Ven. That could be a possibility, especially as Romero came out in the middle of the week. Actually, maybe he drops Romero for this game. Alternatively, they could look to back him and put him in. So let's see what happens. This is going to be about game management, this game. I think the formation, as much as it's important, we know that the past few games, every time we've managed to score, we've managed to score first. We've managed to let the other team come back into the game. And so we really struggle with our defensive transitions. Team always manage to get shots, if not score, from outside the box like they did last game. We are also a little bit patchy when it comes to defending set pieces, which, as amazing we are at scoring set pieces, we are also, at risk quite a lot of conceding from set pieces as well. And as I said before, our concentration tends to drop after we've scored or after we've conceded. And the reason why that's so damaging is because we find it hard to pick ourselves up after we've scored, which kind of psychologically makes no sense, but it seems to be the reality. Whether we let the momentum shift and we let the other team dominate or take control. And this is why I think the midfield is going to be so important, so that we cut those mistakes out of our game and prevent the other team from scoring before we get our heads back in it to score again. I also think that we tend to drop off on concentration after we've conceded, which allows the other team to get back in, and which is why we've been conceding more than one goal, often leaving us in situations where maybe we're 2-1 down, and then we then have to go and score that second goal. So, we get punished on those lapses, and I think that needs to be fixed, or at least addressed, and I think that's actually going to make this a bit of a tighter game than people are expecting. I think that Aston Villa are very comfortable without the ball. They press quite selectively. They are very organised defensively, and this has been one of the reasons why they've been so compact and so good this season. And they are ruthless when chances appear. So we really, really need to have a compact mid-block. So I think this actually could have been a game where maybe Paulinho and Bentancur, and I know people are not going to like this, but I think this might have been a game where we could have played those two together. I think Gray, as good as he is, he's still a youngster. He's still a kid. He's still 19 years old. And I think he still does do, as much as he offers some creativity, not as much as Bergvall, I think he is a player who needs time to develop. So maybe this is a game where actually Gray takes on a bit more of a defensive role. Obviously, he's going to sit in between Paulinho and Xavi, but I'm wondering, because some games he can be a bit further up and he can be a little bit more creative. I think in this game he's going to side on the air of caution and perhaps be a little bit more defensive, and maybe we're going to have that two pivot rather than having him a sort of a box to box. So and obviously we're going to have Bissouma or Sarr back, not by the game tomorrow, but depending who wins that game tonight. I think we're going to need to be quicker on our transitions. I think one thing that I really appreciated and liked from the last game was Xavi's creativity. I think his ability to open up the field and get us running down the flanks is what caused Tell to really get at Bournemouth last game. I think that little flick that he did to create Tell's goal, for Tell to create that goal, was a really clever bit of play. I love the flair that Xavi gives us, but I think we need to be like a little bit quicker in those transitions. And I think having Richie there rather than having, sorry, my WhatsApp keeps going. But I think having Richie there as opposed to Mawani offers a little bit more. It offers a little bit more creativity. I think Richie is like this player who he's so passionate that he will literally just run from box to box, and sometimes you can see him defending in equal measure as he is attacking, whereas I think Moani kind of didn't really offer that last game, and I think maybe that's going to help us a little bit more on the counter. As much as Richie isn't the fastest player, I think Odegaard is also going to offer us that on the right. He doesn't protect the ball as well as Kudus does, but I do think that Odegaard has these moments where he kind of shines, and maybe having a run of games with him and Tell in the team can maybe offer us something, because I think as a partnership, Odegaard and Tell, they're very familiar with each other. They speak the same language. They play, in the France under 21s together. I do think that when we get them playing together, hopefully Tell stays, because we can't be getting rid of him when we don't even have a backup for that side. Moani is just not good enough. But I do think that Odegaard does offer a bit more of that creativity on the right-hand side, and then paired with Xavi, we do have a bit more of that pace up front. And I think we are going to be needing to be very direct when we commit these numbers forward, because Villa, they just don't need 60% possession to win games, and that is what makes them very difficult and dangerous to beat in a cup tie. I think as well we need to be prepared that we're going to need to defend quite wide when we are on the receiving end of the overload. I just think that as much as Ben Davies isn't our fastest player, I do think he offers something different. I think he offers the experience. And with Tell in front of him, assuming he plays on the left, I think that actually gives Tell a bit more freedom, because it gives him a bit more cover in the knowledge that he's got a player behind him who is very solid. And so rather than having to run back and cover, I think that's going to give him just a bit more freedom. As much as we know that Frank plays quite defensive, I think that is going to give him a bit more agency and freedom to push forward. Set pieces are going to be the thing to watch for both of these teams. I think obviously our goal that Davis scored, no, that was from a corner. What was the one before that? Sorry, last game. Tell's goal, that was the first goal from open play in like 10 hours of football or something. So we are craving another open goal. Please, please, please score an open goal. That's all I'm asking. But I actually don't see this as a high scoring game. So moving on to the score prediction, I think Villa are far too organised for this to be like a 3-3 draw or something like that. And Spurs are still learning how to control matches without it, completely collapsing in on us. So my prediction for this game, I actually think it's going to be a 1-1. I think it's going to be a 1-1 in full time. And obviously there's going to be 30 minutes of extra time if that were to happen. I would love to say that Spurs are going to nick it in extra time. I can see Tell scoring in this with like a Richie assist, or maybe even Richie scoring in this with a Tell assist. But I think those two are going to be involved in a goal at some point. And yeah, potentially I think the deciding goal for this is going to come in extra time. I would love to back my team. Obviously, I always hope that we're going to be the ones to score that second goal. But head over heart, I don't know if we can get it over the line tomorrow. I just pray that we can. But yeah, this could very easily be a 2-1 Villa win. But yeah, I'm hoping against all odds, and the odds are betting odds, if you're a betting man, are certainly not in our favour. But I do hope that we can overcome that. And yeah, beat them tomorrow 2-1. But my head is telling me that it's going to be 2-1 the other way. But this feels like one of those games that is going to be more telling than just the scoreline. I know that if we lose this game, fans are probably going to lose their head, even if it was like the Bournemouth game and we actually play well. But I think for me personally, forgetting the end of the result. I think that what's going to be most telling is how we approach this, the mentality, the discipline, the control that we have on the game, the lapses in concentration. I think that's actually going to be more important to me. If we can cut these mistakes out of this game and out of our play, I think that's going to set us in much better stead, and it's going to breed more confidence moving forward. So yeah, stay calm, fans. Enjoy the game tomorrow. Like, subscribe, or comment for more conversation and discussion. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Come on, you Spurs.